So if you're watching this video, you may have landed an interview at a company that you're looking to potentially work for. I was once in the same position to begin working for a company, and I'm currently in the position to move up in that same company. Today, I want to talk about the strategies that I took to figure out how I was going to dress for the interview process in this specific company. My name's Cody. I currently work in the fashion industry, and today I want to talk about how I dressed, the steps that I took in doing some research to figure out how I should be dressing, and fine-tuning the outfits that I wore for my interviews to be promoted within the role that I'm in now. So research is an important part of the process. Research is going to fine-tune what you know about the company if they're more uptight and you should be wearing a suit, a tie, things like that, or if they're a little bit more casual and you can go with something like a polo shirt, a turtleneck, even a t-shirt with a jacket over it. You should be doing research on the company already for writing and fine-tuning your resume to the job position, as well as understanding maybe some of the questions that are going to be asked for you, as well as writing a cover letter. Research should already be covered a little bit on the company side. And if it's not, I would suggest starting with that. Starting by understanding the company that you're working for, a little bit about the history, a little bit about the culture. This is going to give you a head start in when the interview process begins, knowing which questions you should ask and the way that you should be answering the questions that are being asked of you. Another part of research is if you know the person that you're going to be interviewing with specifically, if you have a name, look into them a little bit, understand their background, understand what's going to affect them. If you're interviewing with more of a business professional, someone that's more on the business end of things, a suit is probably going to be your best bet. Basic color suit, whether it's navy or black, with a dress shirt and a tie, playing it nice and simple. Ultimately, this is dependent on if you own a suit. My suggestion would be if you don't own a suit, it would be good for any man to have in their wardrobe anyways, for occasions like these or special occasions, a nice dinner, a wedding, or something along those lines. Could be a good investment to look into for your future. When I initially interviewed for the role that I'm currently in, I didn't own a suit. I was coming fresh out of college, but I did know that I should own at least a nice pair of dress pants. They were a navy pair that I ultimately went for, and a nice white dress shirt, keeping it nice and basic. I also owned a pair of brown dress shoes. When you think of standard dress for business, you think of blues and browns. Brown belt, brown shoes, blue suit, blue shirt, white shirt, very simple things, right? Not getting too creative, not straying outside of the boundaries too much. This is always a safe bet, and this is something that I would suggest if you don't own a suit and your interview is coming up and it's a little bit too quick to go out and buy one. Keep it simple, a nice pair of dress pants, a nice white shirt, pressed, looking clean, and a nice pair of brown shoes. Now, ideally, if I was going into the situation and I was more well prepared for my initial interviews, I would have wore a suit. I would have likely bought a blue suit or a black suit, which I did eventually invest in. Once I got the position and I was in the position for about a year, I did go out and I did buy a black suit from Calvin Klein, got a great deal on it from Macy's, and it's now something in my wardrobe that I can leverage if need be. Now let's talk a little bit about the interview process that I'm currently going through. It's a little bit different, and this could be the position that you're in as well. If you have appointments scheduled with specific people, you can look into them and research those specific people a little bit. If their background is in business, they may be expecting a suit and a tie a little bit more. If their background is in design, you may have a little bit more flexibility for creative expression. Maybe you can wear a sweater under a jacket, or only a sweater, or a turtleneck under a jacket, something like this. This is something that I actually opted for recently in an interview that I had with one of the head designers at the company that I am applying for a promotion in. For this interview, I went with a clean charcoal suit. This is a Uniqlo Airsense suit, so it's a little bit more casual suit, a little bit of a techie fabric. It's not so uptight and structured, such as a Calvin Klein suit that I own, and a nice yellow turtleneck underneath. Maybe not as classic as your standard suit and tie, but when you're interviewing with designers, usually they're not the uptight and structured the same way that a business people are, with a suit and a tie and very conservative type of dress. Now, the situation was obviously a little bit different because I'm aware of who this person is, right? I'm aware of their background, but you can learn a little bit about them as well and their background if you dig into their LinkedIn, past roles that they've had, the types of companies that they've worked for, understanding what drives them a bit. As for the other two interviews, I knew these people were more on the business end of things, in higher level manager roles of the sourcing organization overall. So for these, I went with a standard suit and a tie, dress shirt, kept things very formal, kept things very conservative to give off a good impression to them. And my suggestion would be, if you don't know, the base can always be a suit and a tie. It's always a good base because it's going to present you in a very good light no matter what. It's just well known that a suit and a tie is a very conservative look, that you're showing that you're putting your best foot forward. You understand the role that you're applying yourself for. It's also going to give you, and I've talked about this in past videos, just a little bit of a boost in confidence in yourself, right? That you're most well dressed. You put all your effort into getting dressed, and that effort is going to shine out through the interview process that you're in. Additionally, the state that I'm currently in, I have some more interviews coming up, and I know that these are with the vice president and the sort of director of the supply chain, the organization that I find myself in. These are business people, right? So I understand that for these interviews, I'm going to be going into it with a nice formal suit and a tie, dress shoes, basically the tip-top, most presentable version of the clothes that I own in my wardrobe. The good thing about that is you can put a little bit of your personality into this outfit. And the way that I usually do that is through a tie. So my favorite color is purple, right? I've made a little bit of my personal brand. People think purple and they think kind of me. They associate me with the color purple. It's an interesting thing that happens, but you can make a part of your personal brand a color, a pattern, something like this. And that's what the way that I've sort of positioned myself with the color purple. The way that I do this is I have a black suit, I have a white shirt. You can also go with a black shirt. I would say a white shirt is a little bit more conservative. And then I wear a nice purple tie that I actually thrifted. So I got this tie for a great deal. And it's a little bit of a signature of mine now. I've worn this tie quite a bit. People have seen me in it and they associate that with me. This is something that I would definitely suggest for yourself, right? Because it's going to keep you in a little bit of a more formal and conservative dress, but also shine through a little bit of personality. It's going to separate you from the crowd a bit. You have to think you're going up against other candidates. Some of them may be more well positioned for the position that you're applying for as well. They may have more years of experience, but even still, being a personable person and leaning on some sort of soft skills, being a great communicator, being willing to learn new things and take on tough projects and things like that, on top of separating yourself from the group visibly by wearing something a little bit different than everybody else is wearing, can be a good thing. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video, if you enjoy fashion content of the likes, please consider scrolling down, dropping a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. It'll be very helpful. Let's get back to it. Now that we've touched on sort of the basics and fundamentals of how I approach the interview process, let's go into a little bit more that you can do in terms of researching the company that you're working for. So say, for example, you're going to be interviewing for a position at a company that has a really well-defined image for their brand. When I think of this, I think of maybe a Ralph Lauren, very Americana, heritage, old school, a little bit more patterns going on, things like that. If you have something in your wardrobe that lends itself to that a little bit more, I would say lean into that. Lean into the understanding and make it visibly clear that you've done your research, that you understand the brand, not only from a business end, but from sort of what their vision is. For this example, I have this outfit where I have a nice classic sort of jacket with some interesting colors going on. It's a little bit more of a tweed than a finer suiting fabric. And this is what I would wear to a interview with a company that has sort of a more Americana and vintage, classical, established look like a Ralph Lauren. Another example would be if you're applying for a company, maybe such as a Nike or an Adidas, a more sportswear company, you can go and lean into a little bit more of like maybe a golf polo with a nice jacket over top and some clean trousers, maybe even some chinos. For this example, I lean into a Nike polo that I actually own. It's a little bit more of a techie fabric. It's a golf polo. I have that mixed with some black trousers that I own, that I wear a ton. Some nice dress shoes because I'm still keeping the outfit bumped up just a bit, and then a denim jacket over top. And what you can also do is you can lean in again to that personal brand aspect. So here I have a purple polo. I've worn this a ton. I get a ton of wear out of this in the more sort of spring, summer months. That's sort of how it lends itself. And this is a polo that I would wear if I know the company is a little bit more casual, a little bit more loose about their dress code, but I still want to keep things fine-tuned and professional, bumped up just a little bit. I would pair this with that same black trouser, black shoe combination, maybe throw a jacket over top, maybe not, depending on the weather that it is outside or what you're bringing to the interview. It's gonna lend yourself well to show a little bit of personality and be a little bit more personable and connect to the person that you're interviewing with a little bit more. Another option is to go with maybe like a blue broadcloth shirt. I'm actually wearing a blue broadcloth shirt and some khakis down below. Khakis are always a classic staple in a sort of more casual business, casual wardrobe. And then some more casual shoes. I have some suede loafers, for example, that I paired up with this outfit. Super nice and clean look overall, but just a little bit more downgraded from a suit and a little bit more casual. Again, this is all based off of research that you've done on the company that you're applying for, that you have these interviews with. But if you don't know, ultimately, my best recommendation would still be to lean into that suit that you own with a classic dress shirt and a classic tie. It's always just a good staple. Now, this is just the dress for an interview. I think very importantly, as well as your preparation in understanding STAR, understanding how to effectively answer the questions that are likely going to be asked of you, understanding the role in general, fine-tuning your answers to the job description. There's a lot that goes into an interview, but a big portion of it is how you present yourself up front. Some other tips that I would suggest is to bring a notebook of some sort, bring a pen so you can write down and take notes as you're going through the interview process. Have a few copies of your resume that you applied with printed out so that you can give that to them if they need it, show them that you're prepared, and also have some questions prepared that you can ask these different people in these interviews, because ultimately they're gonna ask you if you have any questions for them, and it's always good to just be prepared to ask questions of them because it's going to show that you're a little bit more engaged in the process. It's going to give you just a little bit of a bump up from another interviewer that may have done an amazing job in the process, but didn't really have a back and forth with them, was just a great person in an interview. And of course, connect with the person that you're interviewing with a little bit, right? Maybe ask them about themselves, ask them about their background, what they really love about the company that they're working in currently, to get some feedback from that end and become a little bit more personable, start building up a relationship with this person so that when your name comes up, when whoever they're reporting back to has a question about how that interview went with you, they have an overall good sense about who you are as a person on top of how well you apply and fit into the piece of the puzzle that is this position that you're applying for. So that's that. That's how I approach the interview process. That's how I've been approaching the interview process in the past and the current role that I'm now applying for. And it's worked well for me so far. And I want to wish the best of luck to you because, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, if you're watching this, you're likely going into an interview process, expecting to go into an interview process. And always just be personable with a person. That's very important. But always put your best foot forward by dressing nice and presenting yourself well visually. That's all I got for y'all today. Appreciate y'all taking the time to watch the video. Talk again soon. Peace.